Welcome to the Haunter's Lair, where the strange and unexplained come to life. Here, every shadow hides a story, every whisper carries a secret, and every mystery is waiting to be unraveled. If you're drawn to the unknown, the eerie, and the spine-chilling, you've come to the right place. Hit that subscribe button and join us as we dive deep into the world of unsolved mysteries, ghostly encounters, and the darkest corners of the human mind. Prepare to question everything. Are you ready to uncover the truth? The Phantom of the Sea. Marcus had always been drawn to the sea. The rhythm of the waves, the scent of salt water, the endless horizon, it all called to him. So when he bought the small weathered sailboat, Seabound, he thought it would be his ultimate escape from the world. He didn't mind that the boat was old, or that it creaked under the pressure of the wind. For him, there was something magical about sailing alone. It was a late evening when Marcus set off into the open ocean. The sun dipped low, casting a fiery orange glow over the water. The only sound was the whisper of the wind and the lapping of the waves against the hull. As the shore grew distant, Marcus felt the isolation sink in, but he welcomed it. Alone at sea, he could escape the troubles that weighed on his mind. The first night was calm. He anchored off a small, uninhabited island, unsure of what to expect, but unbothered. The stars above were the only company he had, but the silence was unnerving. It was the kind of silence that pressed in on you, thick and suffocating. Around midnight, Marcus awoke with a start. A soft scraping noise echoed through the stillness. He froze, straining his ears, but the sound ceased almost as quickly as it had started. His heart raced, but he shrugged it off, convincing himself it was just a trick of the wind or a seal brushing against the boat. The next day, Marcus set sail again, determined to reach the farthest point he could before the weather turned. The wind was strong, and the Seabound surged through the waves like a creature alive with purpose. The sky was a perfect blue, and the ocean stretched endlessly before him. But by evening, the winds shifted. The sky darkened, and heavy clouds rolled in with a sudden, unnatural speed. A storm was brewing. Marcus hastily adjusted the sails, but he knew he wouldn't outrun it. The sea began to churn violently beneath him. Waves crashed over the side of the boat, and the Seabound groaned with each gust of wind. It wasn't long before the storm swallowed the last remnants of daylight, leaving him alone in a blackened world of crashing waves and furious winds. Through the chaos, Marcus heard something faint, almost like a voice carried on the wind. He couldn't make out the words, but the sound sent a shiver down his spine. "Is someone out there?" he shouted into the darkness, but the only response was the roaring sea. The storm raged for hours, and Marcus was on edge, his eyes darting over the water in a panic. That's when he saw it, a shadow in the distance. At first, he thought it was another boat, but it was moving against the wind, its silhouette growing closer with an eerie slowness. The hairs on the back of his neck stood up. The figure emerged through the fog. Not a boat, but a man. A man standing tall, as if walking on the water itself. His clothes were ragged, clinging to his gaunt frame, and his face was pale, almost translucent. His eyes glowed with an unnatural, ghostly light. Marcus felt his breath catch in his throat as the man approached, the waves parting as if they were afraid to touch him. "Who are you?" Marcus shouted, his voice cracking with fear. The man didn't answer. Instead, he smiled, a cold, hollow grin that sent chills down Marcus's spine. The boat rocked violently, and the air grew colder than the night should have been. Without warning, the man lunged forward, his arms outstretched. In that moment, Marcus realized the terrible truth. The man was no more than a phantom, a specter of the deep. Before he could react, the figure vanished into the water, leaving nothing but the crashing waves behind. Marcus's heart pounded in his chest as he scrambled to regain control of the Seabound. The storm intensified, and the waves grew taller, as if the ocean itself was alive, angry at his trespass. His mind raced as he tried to make sense of what had happened. Had he imagined it, or had it been real? Hours passed, the storm never relenting. Just as he thought he couldn't take any more, the wind suddenly died down. The water was eerily calm, the sky clearing as if the storm had never existed. But the silence that followed was worse than the storm. Marcus's hands shook as he glanced over the side of the boat. Floating beside him, just below the surface of the water, was the reflection of the ghostly figure, its hollow eyes staring back at him. He swore the smile on the figure's face widened as if it knew something he didn't. Never leave. A whisper echoed in his ear. The voice he had heard earlier. The sea claims those who try to escape. Marcus backed away, his heart racing, but there was nowhere to go. The ocean was vast, and the island he had anchored near seemed an eternity away. The sea-bound was no longer his escape, and the phantom was not finished with him yet.